Hi, thank you for joining me today. My name is Chris Clark, and I'm a retired faith-based executive and trained spiritual director focusing this season of my life on supporting pastors in their ministries and their life journeys, including through leadership and self-care mentoring. Today, I'd like to talk about pastoral self-care and specifically discuss what self-care is and what self-care is not. A 2014 Christianity Today survey identified that 91% of pastors were experiencing some level of burnout in their ministry, while almost 19% indicated that they were, quote, burnt to a crisp. This survey was conducted before the challenges pastors have faced as a result of COVID and the political and cultural polarization of our society, which have only added markedly to clergy stress. Research shows that this stress impacts pastors in a number of different ways: physically, emotionally, spiritually, and relationally, just to name a few. So there's a clear need for pastors to make self-care an active priority in their lives and in their ministries. But why is this such a particularly challenging area for clergy? From my work with pastors, individual pastors, over the past 6 years, a theme that I've heard repeatedly is, I know I need to focus on self-care, but it just seems so selfish. I just don't feel comfortable prioritizing my own needs when there are so many people that are counting on me in so many ways. And I want to say up front that I can truly appreciate this viewpoint. As clergy, you have more demands on you than virtually any other profession. You're expected to have gifts of spiritual and moral leadership, pastoral care, teaching, preaching, and then also run a nonprofit organization where you're the de facto CEO, CFO, or COO, all the time managing volunteers or congregants who are also your benefactors. I can't think of another profession that has this breadth of complicated expectations. But I also want to emphasize a fundamental truth. Self-care is not selfish. Self-care is what you need to do in order to fully step into your calling, to fully leverage your unique God-given gifts and talents in a sustainably healthy manner. Jeff Thiemann, who was the former CEO of Portico Benefits Services, which handles wellness programs for the ELCA, he put it this way. He said, some people, when they hear the word self-care, it sounds to them like selfish care. He said, people think about ministry as a sacrifice. They think, I've chosen this sacrificial calling, and so I'm willing to live that out. And we're trying to help people see the bigger picture. We need them to be healthy in order to be able to serve well. Parker Palmer, in his book, Let Your Life Speak, wrote, self-care is never a selfish act. It is simply good stewardship of the only gift I have, the gift I was put on earth to offer others. Interesting that he says self-care isn't selfishness, it's stewardship. He goes on further to say, anytime we can listen to our true self and give it the care it requires, we do it not only for ourselves, but for the many others whose lives we touch. Now, I believe that one of the challenges we face in recognizing the need for self-care is that a commitment to self-care requires us to recognize our humanness. It requires us to recognize that we have limitations, that we are not God. Pastor Kirk Byron Jones, in his book Rest in the Storm, writes, before God calls us to do, God calls us to be. Before God calls us to be ministers, God calls us to be persons. Jones challenges pastors to reflect on two myths. The first, what he calls the myth of our own indispensability, where the thought is that the ship can't possibly move forward without us. And secondly, the myth of our own invincibility, where we think we can continue to push to the point of exhaustion and then beyond. So what does a commitment to self-care require? I believe there are two primary things that any of us need if we want to take the area of self-care seriously. First, I think we need to be willing to have a healthy level of self-awareness. What are the areas of my life or ministry that are less than fully healthy or do not seem sustainable? What areas of my life or ministry seem dry or not life-giving? And what are my warning signs or the warning signs in my life, in my emotions, in my relationships that indicate I need to invest more actively in my self-care. I also think a commitment to self-care requires a level of intentionality. I think a true commitment to self-care is an intentional, conscious plan to keep things rightly ordered in life. Rightly ordered with God, with yourself, and with others, including your family and your flock. A commitment to self-care requires intentionality to give yourself permission to take care of yourself, to take care of the gifts that God has given you, and to recognize your humanness. I would like to close with a comment from Pastor Angela Barker Jackson, who was co-author of the book, A Guide to Ministry Self-Care. She emphasized the need for intentionality in self-care, saying, "Truly, one cannot fill glasses from an empty pitcher. In order to adequately provide care for those with whom I've been entrusted, I must first care for myself." I want to thank you for your time today. And more importantly, I want to thank you for your ministry and for your commitment to doing kingdom work. I want to encourage you to prayerfully consider what a deeper commitment to self-care might look like in your life and in your ministry. Thank you, and blessings to you.